The teams are Mimikyu, Incineroar, Calyrex, Ice Form, Urshifu, Tapu Fini, and Regieleki on Marco's side, against Jack's Palkia, Sableye, Zapdos, Ferrothorn, Landorus, and Nihilego.
So I think this game is going to come down to a lot of how Marco can position his Trick Room, whether he wants it against that Ferrothorn when he presses it. And I think that is going to be truly what the battle is about here. So we're going to get into the game here, and we're going to see the leads of Palkia and Nihilego versus Marco's Incineroar and Calyrex. So the situation, there's no Trick Room right off the bat, and it's going to come down to the positioning from Marco here.
Apologies, could you repeat the leads? Unfortunately, an ad popped up on my screen.
It's Palkia, Nihilego versus Calyrex and Incineroar.
Awesome. So yeah, we see that, like we mentioned, the Nihilego, very threatening with the Meteor Beam, of course, against both of the Pokemon in play here. But also, if Jack wants and he's not too worried about getting faked out, he could also just go for something like a Acid Spray and try and double up on the Calyrex with either a Max Wormwind or a Max Flare. The second being more likely to knock out, but the first one could be really valuable for damage mitigation on this behemoth of an offensive monster, Calyrex Ice.
Acid Spray is really interesting here because it functions like Fake Tears, but with a little bit of damage, which is something I really like, especially against Marco's team, because sometimes if there's Tailwind involved or annoying stuff like that, it's a little bit different. But we're going to see Nihilego get withdrawn here into Zapdos for Jack here. So he's just switching out. And we're going to see the Dynamax from the Palkia.
You gotta love these Dynamax animations. Colin, what's your favorite Dynamax or Gigantamax animation?
I gotta say Calyrex because it just looks different than the other ones. It has that blue tint. So I think Calyrex, Ghost and Ice are probably my favorite Dynamax animations.
Of course.
So we're also going to see a Dynamax from Marco here on presumably the Calyrex. I can't imagine it's the Incineroar. But, yep, there it is. There's the blue tint that I mentioned earlier. It's a little bit different, a little bit spicier.
Exactly, and the Calyrexes are more likely to Dynamax when they're Assault Vest, as we know Marco's is, because they can't really be setting up Trick Room.
So the Fake Out's going to come through onto the Zapdos that switched out. Ooh, and the Static right off the bat. So that's not fun for Marco just because, you know, that Hacks chance can be kind of annoying. And then we see the Max Geyser onto Incineroar. The Static does not matter, never mind. And he's out of here.
Yeah, perhaps could have been consequential later in the battle if, you know, Incineroar was not able to get parting shots. However, you know, the Palkia just takes any of that out of the equation immediately.
We're going to see that Max Hailstorm come through onto Zapdos. Wow, both players just trading KOs here.
Yeah, and the Calyrex just knocks out the Zapdos on switch-in. Pretty safe Max Ice. You have to, you know, Nihilego not known for its physical defense, actually known for its pretty pitiful physical defense. So a Max Hailstorm would have knocked out anyways. But instead of going for the Max Quake special defense boost, Marco wisely removes Rain from that Max Geyser and sets up Hail, which is, you know, more or less effectively a +1 in terms of removing the Rain.
I think one important thing to note here is that Marco did lose his Incineroar, which is the fire type to beat Ferrothorn. So if Ferrothorn gets Iron Defenses here, if it navigates into that situation, this could get a little scary for Marco.
Marco's resources have definitely dwindled in handling that Ferrothorn should Jack have chosen to bring it. You know, you have Will-O-Wisp and Taunt on your Mimikyu, but if Trick Room goes up like you really do want it to for this Calyrex, suddenly Ferrothorn's really doing well against Mimikyu, Calyrex, and Tapu Fini in the back. But at this point, you know, the Nihilego is finally in, and we do see the benefit of the Acid Spray is that you can break that disguise on Mimikyu and knock it out with Palkia. Whereas, you know, something like a Fake Tears wouldn't be able to do that. And now you really have a pretty much guaranteed slot KO onto that Mimikyu slot if you know, choose the correct coverage move on Palkia.
Cool, and we're going to see the Acid Spray connect onto Calyrex, actually. Again, he knows it's Assault Vest, so this is pretty safe play. And we're going to see the Wormwind come through onto Calyrex as well, doing pretty sizable damage.
Yep, dropping the attack as well, pretty significant. Probably won't allow Nihiligo to survive a Max Quake or anything like that, but definitely going to be beneficial to the Palkia.
Calyrex is going to go for Max Quake into Nihiligo. Very safe play. We know the Zapdos is gone, so it's a guaranteed KO. Nihiligo is out of here with that Max Quake, and we're going to see both boosts for special defense and attack coming through for Calyrex.
Yeah, that amazing Chilling Neigh ability, just boosting Calyrex's stats when it takes a knockout, or its attack stat, rather.
And Mimikyu will press Trick Room, so now Trick Room is up. Here we go.
So finding out this back Pokemon is going to be very, very important for Marco, because although the Calyrex it does have a +1 boost. It took the 2 consecutive knockouts and then the -1 from the Max Wormwind. But in Trick Room, it's going to be really, really difficult for even a +1 Calyrex to break through an Iron Defense Ferrothorn. So we'll see how Marco can navigate that.
The Trick Room felt good there, but now since Ferrothorn came in, it is really, really nice positioning for Jack here, because the Ferrothorn, like we mentioned earlier, Instant is gone. So this thing's going to cause problems.
Exactly. And Palkia, pretty great natural bulk, so it's honestly, it's unlikely that Calyrex can even knock it out with a +1 Hailstorm, so you have to expect that the Palkia could just knock out the Calyrex here, and then suddenly it's Ferrothorn 1v1ing Mimikyu and Tapu Fini. Though with Taunt, Mimikyu might be able to do it. We'll just have to see.
It is very important to get the Taunt off before the Leaf Seed. But we're going to see Ferrothorn go for Iron Defense, and then Calyrex follow up with a Max Hailstorm right into Palkia, doing a good chunk, honestly. And will Play Rough connect? Palkia is so bulky that Play Rough did nothing for a super effective hit. And Palkia is going to go for that Max Wormwind back into Calyrex. But Calyrex hangs on.
I think we sort of locked in on the Max Wormwind lowering the Mimikyu's attacking stat. Sorry, rather it limiting the Calyrex's attacking stat, but it served to really just limit Mimikyu's Play Rough damage onto the Palkia and buys it almost another turn, although the Hail Chip does just do it in here.
This is a really interesting endgame now because of the way Taunt interacts with Leaf Seed. Mimikyu might be able to actually stall out Ferrothorn and win the game because Ferrothorn can't touch it as long as Taunt is on. We might be going to timer here, Mimikyu versus Ferrothorn.
I think the hail damage will serve to benefit. The hail damage is permanent on that Mimikyu. It has no way of healing. So I think it's really going to come down to how this Ferrothorn can handle the remaining Pokemon other than Mimikyu without using its Leech Seed and its Iron Defense and its Protects. It's really going to have to rely on Body Press as its only attack for the rest of the battle, as long as Marco mixes in his taunts intelligently.
Yeah, I think Marco will win Mimikyu versus Ferrothorn 1v1 though, just because it does have Will-O-Wisp. It can't be touched as long as Taunt's going down. So he would win on timer, if I'm correct here. He still does have more Pokemon.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Mimikyu with the dodge on the Leech Seed, and then we're going to see this Glacial Lance come through onto Ferrothorn, doing 25%, not the worst there. And then Taunt will come through. I do think that miss was awful, but Mimikyu could have just switched out.
Yeah, unfortunate miss. Really, the one turn he could have gotten the Leech Seed off, he goes for it. Or rather, he could have gotten it off last turn as well, but goes for it this turn, probably his last chance to do so, and just whiffs the Leech Seed, unfortunately. I believe a 90% accurate move, so turn was in his favor, but didn't work out for Jack this go around. Now with the Ferrothorn taunted, it's really going to be impossible for it to touch the Ghost-type Mimikyu, and it's not going to be doing too much against the Fairy-type Tapu Fini in the back either.
Yeah, this situation is looking better and better for Marco. I do think the miss is unfortunate, but I think there was that free switch into Fini because Calyrex was still living. So I think they could have reset the Leech Seed, but he might have got it on the turn after. So we're going to see the Body Press go into Calyrex, pick up that nice KO. So that's you got to get rid of it eventually. And then we're going to see this Will-O-Wisp come through, ending the turn.
Yeah, if the previous turn works out differently, where Calyrex actually goes down, like if the Leech Seed hits there, I think that does just win it for Jack. However, That's not the world we live in, Colin. So yeah, unfortunately, seen miss, but Marco definitely had counterplay afterwards. So I wouldn't call it, all the game based off that miss. I think Marco was still in a pretty dominant position with the ability to taunt with Mimikyu. No immediate damage pressure from the only +2 iron defense, only +2 defense body presses from the Ferrothorn.
There will be no chances for more body presses either, or for iron defenses rather. So Fini will be really safe here to just eventually stall up and then press Calm Mind. So I think Marco's in a really, really commanding position.
And as we see, the last turn he took, about 40 seconds. We'll see if he continues to take his time. But at this point, I think he knows that, yes, he could play extremely safe and try and win this on timer, but most likely this is in his favor even without it.
I do think he can just Calm Mind to +6. He can win in a very natural way. I don't think he needs timer just because Mimikyu won't run out of taunts. So I do think Marco can play this safe.
Yeah, and I believe Marco is running the leftovers Fini, so that serves even more to his benefit. And yeah, Jack realizes, he's played a lot of games with Ferrothorn at this point in this tournament, so he realizes when he's beat, doesn't want to waste his and everyone else's time, and honestly waste his own mental stamina.
I really like
playing out that game.
I really like the way Marco approached the end game there. Even though he lost Incineroar, he just didn't care. He was so confident in his Mimikyu to beat the Ferrothorn, where I was sweating a little bit when I saw that Incineroar go down. So I really like that, and that was a little bit of an unorthodox way that I wouldn't necessarily have saw at first glance on how to beat that Ferrothorn. But Marco, very experienced. I'm sure he's played a ton of Ferrothorns, and he just handled that with ease.
Yeah, exactly. Also, interesting Pokemon selection from Marco. Ends up going with the most common. Actually, no. The most common lead for this team, or the most common set of Pokemon, is Incin, Mimikyu, and then you go with your back Calyrex and Tapu Fini. Instead, Marco went a little more aggressively with his Incin Calyrex, sort of expecting, all right, my opponent is one of the few teams that could have the resources to really stuff my Trick Room approach. If they lead Ferrothorn, I could be in trouble. If they lead, there's a lot of combinations of leads that they could do that could be really annoying for me. So instead of falling into that trap in game one, he just immediately goes on the aggressive turn in the first game and leads his most likely Dynamax Pokemon and does it straight off the bat turn one.
Yeah, I agree. Like matching that pressure, because Jack's team is very much a Dynamax turn one kind of vibe, especially with Palkia. So I like that he was able to adjust and just play towards I know Jack's Dynamaxing, so I'm gonna Dynamax too. He played with the tempo of his opponent instead of trying to play the pace a little differently with a Mimikyu and Incineroar lead.
Yeah, looking at adjustments for Jack, really the story of that game was just Calyrex taking KO after KO those first couple of turns and really just putting on the pressure so that Jack really didn't have the time or resources set up his Ferrothorn properly. So I'd really like to see Jack get Ferrothorn in earlier, maybe even lead Ferrothorn Palkia and get that iron defense off immediately. But we'll see how the players adapt in this game too.
So we're going to see a Palkia Sableye, a little bit of an adjustment from Jack, into Marco's Calyrex and Incineroar.
Interesting adjustment. So the Sableye on this team, kind of an interesting set with Snarl, Will-O-Wisp, Quash, and Rain Dance. Probably what you would not. A couple of those you might see coming, but most of those you really couldn't call from a mile away. But yeah, the Will-O-Wisp does threaten immediately the Calyrex. However, if you're Marco, you have a pretty safe switch to Tapu Fini here. Palkia not really going to be able to call or knock that out on a switch in without a really hard read. And Calyrex really unlikely to be knocked out by anything that the Palkia or the Sableye can throw at it.
So we're going to see Fini withdraw, setting up that Misty Surge, which is important versus Sableye. Incineroar withdraw into Fini. And then we're going to see probably some Dynamax animations, but we're going to see Sableye withdraw first into the Ferrothorn, which is a good switch in here. There's no real threats. And we're going to see that Dynamax Palkia animation.
Yeah, both of these players pretty aggressively playing this set, deciding, I truly need to pressure my opponent turn one. Palkia probably with the capacity to knock out Calyrex if it doesn't Dynamax, so more than likely we will see the two Pokemon. We'll see Calyrex trading Dynamax a little bit more defensively, but still going to be exerting a lot of offensive pressure.
I really like the Feeny switch in because it's obviously a great switch into Palkia, but it also stops the Will-O-Wisp from Sableye. So it accomplished both things with one easy switch there. And also Ferrothorn coming in a little bit sooner like you wanted. Oh, no way. He max lightnings the Tapu Fini. Oh, one hit KO. Holy moly. He went for the hard read there. He called that one.
Absolutely. Yeah, very predictable. With the open team sheath, the Sableye, it was very obviously threatening a Will-O-Wisp onto the Calyrex. So instead of just falling hook, line, and sinker for that, Jack just calls out the obvious Tapu Fini switch and just knocks it out easily. Really incredible play.
We're going to see the Max Hailstorm connect on the Ferrothorn, doing about half, which is pretty good damage.
Wow, that was something else. So even though, like, obviously that's not great, losing your Tapu Fini for not nothing, but losing it on switch in. But it's also really important that electric terrain is set up, because now whenever Sableye comes back in, it will be free to get a Will-O-Wisp up. Misty terrain is no longer on the field. Palkia can go for dragon type attacks at full power. Really can't stress how strong of a max lightning that was in terms of knockouts and positioning for later in the battle.
Yeah, that was an incredible play, and I think it really is setting up Jack here, because he does not have Intimidate on his team. So Sableye is his main way of lowering this Calyrex's attack stat. So I really like the hard read is just gonna pay dividends for the rest of the battle. And I think if we did a VOD review of this, it would be like how do we account for that turn one? That was rough. That was a rough turn one.
It was a bit of a weird spot. You're not sure. You can't really make that read if you're Marco. Oh, interesting. As we go into the turn with Palkia going for Max Quake off the bat.
So we're trying to get some special defense onto Ferrothorn, I guess, with the Max Quake while breaking Disguise. I mean, I think it's a fine setup. I think I might have preferred a Hydro Pump there just to set up the rain for Ferrothorn. But I guess the Hail is just going to keep getting turned on anyways. So not a huge deal. Just get some extra stats there. Disguise will be broken. Life Orb will be taken. And we're going to see that Max Knuckle come through right onto Ferrothorn here. Picking up the KO, launching +2 into Calyrex right there with the ability and the Knuckle.
I really valued the special defense there. Truthfully, I'm not entirely sure why. As you said, I think Max Geyser would have been a better coverage play. Reduces your Hail Chip a little bit. It's unlikely the Hail Chip on the opposing Mimikyu and Incineroar are going to be that relevant. But yeah, regardless, pretty good turn for Marco after a pretty devastating turn one. Finds himself in Trick Room with his Calyrex now at +2 attack. So really threatening big knockouts. Although Sableye coming in might be able to stifle that offense a bit with its priority Will-O-Wisp.
Trick Room also isn't like the biggest deal here just because it does have Quash. So like if Sableye is still alive, Trick Room doesn't matter to Sableye. So that's an important thing to note as well. But I assume we'll just see a Will-O-Wisp here just to weaken this Calyrex.
You see Marco lock into, I believe he play roughed into the Sableye, so really prioritizing getting off that field, getting it off the field. This is a Focus Sash Sableye. However, Hail most likely going to be making that more or less irrelevant unless Palkia goes for a cheeky Max Geyser this turn.
So we're going to see the Will-O-Wisp come through, connecting onto Calyrex. It did connect, so we got the burn off. And then Hailstorm is going to come through onto Palkia, doing big damage. This is a +2 Hailstorm, I guess it was burn. Okay, so it doesn't do that big of damage. Playve comes through. This will probably knock it down to Sash because Mimikyu is at +1 attack as well.
We do see the Max Geyser from Palkia, so yeah, the Mimikyu will go down this turn, and now the Sableye gets to live another turn, potentially allowing it to go for a Quash. Probably not a Rain Dance, seeing as Rain is already up, but yeah, potentially could Quash this Calyrex next turn. Really important in Trick Room to have that sort of unconventional speed control.
I like this situation from Marco still, because I think at this point all the Pokemon are pretty weakened, and if Trick Room is up, this Calyrex should be able to KO almost anything in the back from Jack because the Ferrothorn is indeed down. So we're going to see these Dynamaxes turn back into small baby Pokemon for both of them, which means Incineroar's Fake Out does work on Palkia here.
Yeah, and looking at the Palkia's set, it has 4 attacks, and I believe it's actually revealed all 4 attacks on stream, but yeah, unable to protect the Palkia in the face of this Fake Out. So we're probably not going to really get to see Sableye Wash actually serve it well this battle, as Marco can just go for a Glacial Lance Fake Out and probably net, if not a double KO, pretty close to one. So, and with, I believe, 3 turns of Trick Room remaining, or something close to that, it's going to be pretty hard for Jack's really offensive team to like stall these last turns out, especially without the ability to protect this turn.
It's important to note too that 2 of his back Pokemon, either Zapdos or Nihilego, don't have Protect, so they don't even have that hope. And we're going to see the Fake Out onto Palkia, as we mentioned, and then Snarl into Calyrex and Incineroar, doing as much damage as Sableye can do before it goes down here to this Glacial Lance. And there's the Glacial Lance. Will it pick up the KO on Palkia is the real question here.
Yes, it will.
With the critical
now the
hit.
Calyrex. Yeah,
So
of
now
course.
that is a +4 Calyrex now. I don't think Jack's 2 Ice types or Nihilego can Ice Weeks, and Nihilego can save this one. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, looking at who it could be in the back, it could be Landorus. One Pokemon on his team with Protect, actually, other than Ferrothorn, is Landorus. Coincidentally, the only Pokemon on Jack's team with Rock Slide. Maybe could have been an out there, but no, unfortunately it is Nihilego in the back, so this does look pretty open and shut in Marco's favor here.
He's going to go with those guaranteed 100% accurate Heavy Slams and a Darkest Lair. There's no way Nihilego can take this. So it's looking like Marco will move on to top 8 of the Battle Room Brawl here.
All right.
The Ally Switch comes through for naught, and Heavy Slam connects, picking up that KO into Nihilego, crowning Marco Fiero the champion of top 16.
Yeah, a bit of a cheeky admission of defeat there from Jack, but well played. Just this Mimikyu Calyrex team really, really consistent and difficult to break through if you don't have like very specific Pokemon on your team or specific strategies prepared for it. So yeah, really well played by Marco. Really well played by Jack as he attempted to break through the obvious plays, looking towards that Max Lightning as what appeared to be a real game changer, but Marco really just had the answers for it, immediately set up Trick Room and turned the tides on that.
I really like the way he played it too. Like, I thought the Ferrothorn was going to be a bigger issue than it ended up being. Like, Marco dealt with it pretty effectively in game 2. Like, it was kind of put into a bad position by switching into that Hailstorm because Jack's team is so aggressive that it doesn't have the greatest of switch-ins there. But yeah, Ferrothorn didn't do as much work as I would have hoped, and I think that was ultimately what crowned Marco the champion here.